Now for the information of all hands.
Welcome to episode 6 of the 1MC with Master Chief Jason Vanderhayden. Today our special guests are Captain Jonathan Carter and Commander CDR Deisher from EPM, and we're going to talk about assignment process.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Looking forward to this all-important topic. I tell you, when I was coming up, one of the most important things and one of the things that gave me the most anxiety, but also kind of the most excitement, was assignment season every year. Well, I not every year, but every 4 years or 3, or I don't think I spent any more than 3 years anywhere. But it was something that the family and I kind of looked forward to. We would plan for, and I'll be honest, I never had a bad assignment. I never once. I've been all over the place. I went places I didn't think I wanted to go. But I never had a bad assignment, and everything seems to happen for a reason. And if you make the best of it, I tell you, there's no bad units in the Coast Guard. They're all good, and they're all doing good work. So I'm excited to talk to. I've known Commander Deisher a very long time. She was my CO back at the fisheries school and at the Regional Fisheries Training Center up in Cape Cod back when I went to fish school. And then Captain Carter it came from Cutter Forces before this, and he is. Been really leading the workforce and senior levels for a very long time, and glad to have both of them here. So the first thing, Captain and Commander, I kind of want to talk about is just kind of the overall process. How do assignments work? It's not just an assignment season for you all. It's assignment season for everybody else, but for you, it's a year-long process that has a lot of different variables, and you have to consider a lot of factors. And we've got EPM 2 here with Commander Deisher, but there's an EPM 1 component. There's a workforce forecasting. There's all kinds of things that go into the assignment process on a yearly basis. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Master Chief. And first of all, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here. We're excited to be, I've been using the term, back in people's faces again as we're transitioning to a post-COVID world. So we're on the road again, we're visiting units again, and to be able to do this podcast, I think that complements that very, very well, to get back into people's faces and talk about what is an exciting time for everybody, which is receiving orders and moving up quickly within our organization. Right. So you talked about it being exciting, every couple of years. I think for us at EPM, it's exciting every single day because it is a year-round process. And I just got here this past summer, and I keep using assignment season, assignment year, all these different terms. But then I realized we have non-rate assignment officers who are cutting non-rates, every class, every week. So it's always an exciting time for us. There is an assignment year. There is an assignment year. We're already looking at assignment year 22 right now. That year really begins in April when the previous assignment year ends. And it's a time for us to really reflect and capture lessons learned on the previous assignment year, and then really moving right into what I think is the most important part of our job, which is doing the road shows, and more importantly than that, doing career counseling. That's right. When I talk to our assignment officers, we have AO University that'll take place next month. But the most important thing we do is career counseling. Because if we do that right, if we do mentorship inside the lifelines right, the slating part, that should be the easiest part of our jobs. So I think this is actually the most exciting time of year for us in what we do, as opposed to that November, kind of through February timeframe where we're actually cutting people orders. The assignment season there's a lot of things that are predicated on how that works. The advancement process is overlined on top of the assignment season. Why? Because we advance to vacancies, and we have to use advancements as a tool to fill gaps within our service. It's been that way forever, and it's a way that works. It's tried and it's true. So there's a lot of different variables there. There's other services do it differently. I think we do it the best. To tell you the truth, we've sat down and we've met with other services, and I like the fact that we transfer our workforce one time a year through one assignment season. So that's where we are right now. And Rula, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, I would just add, we are working with the members, but this is the time also that we're working with commands and we're getting commands input to keep track of, who is leaving, who might be re-enlisting, who's not re-enlisting, to make sure. So right now is when we take a look at our billet list and our slate, and we build the slate out. So we're taking input. We have commands coming here. We are talking to commands. We're talking to commands when we're on the road. And then around September, we will publish an initial list. So commands can verify it, and then we're right into it in October.
Nice. So September's a busy time. Commander, should members be? Is this a time when what should members be doing about this time of year?
I think members should look and see if we have a roadshow coming. We've done, I think, 28 already. Gotten some bigger participations from some units, some smaller participations for other units. But I will say, if a member thinks that if they're going to transfer an AY22, they need to be reaching out to their detailers now and setting up career counseling. If they're taking the service-wide exam, they need to be reaching out to their detailers to see what is available, because you're taking the service-wide exam. We'd like to see your name above the cut.
Yeah.
And talking to the detailers now let you sort of plan out what is, because it is different each year.
It's also a great time to do some self-reflection.
Yeah.
To get some mentorship, from your mentors. We have a new Coast Guard sponsored mentorship program.
That's right.
The Chief's Mess, using all the mentorship tools inside the Lifelines, and then bringing your family members into those discussions, your spouse, your significant other, your mom and dad, whoever it is, to start crafting your professional desires and how you get there through this next assignment season. And so that's what I want members doing right now. I want them looking internal. What are your desires? Because we do take members' desires into consideration.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we always highlight service need, Master Chief, but in its most basic form, it's where you want to go based off of where you compete against your shipmates in a 4-year marks multiple. And that's what we're trying to do here. And that's how we select the best qualified candidates for those jobs. So what are your desires? And sometimes that's the hardest question to answer.
It is. And I really appreciate the plug on the mentoring program, our mentoring app. I encourage everybody to use that, especially if you are up for assignment. When I was an FS2 back in the day, I took the service-wide, and somebody said, hey, I think you might make it. You might want to call the detailer and ask them if they think you're going to make it, so you know whether or not to put in for E5 billets or E6 billets. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. I got to my next unit, and the detailer called me and said, hey, congratulations, you're advancing. Here's a list of ships to pick from. And I was like, I knew I should have called the assignment officer ahead of time and asked him. So I highly encourage everybody to reach out, make contact with your assignment officers. They're really great people. Yeah. There's no assignment officer that hasn't been in the field, that hasn't walked a mile in the people's shoes who they're assigning. And I can tell you, I know them all, and they're fantastic. Now, they have a job to do, and they talk to a lot of people. But please, if you think you might be advancing, it's probably a good idea to touch base with the assignment officer. Sometimes they'll give you some good news and say, hey, I think you're probably going to make it. Just for those people that have been around a little while, that are listening, there are a lot of variables that come into play kind of last minute that maybe affect what billets come open and what don't come open, and you see something on the shopping list and it looks like it's going to be there, and then you come back and it's not there. I just want you to know, Commander Deisher, her team, they get inputs from all throughout the Coast Guard with ship commissionings and decommissionings and growth of the workforce, and then the changes, and sometimes we don't find out about that until kind of a last minute. So don't be discouraged if this billet went away or something. You never know. There's so many factors, right? You mentioned, Captain, that you do a kind of a hot wash every year on how the assignment season went. And I know EPM tries to give people the best quality of life, to be flexible and to create the best process possible. Do you see any changes, anything coming to the assignment process that maybe you can talk about, or maybe we're tracking pretty good right now and there's not a whole big need for change?
As far as the timeline, I don't see any big changes coming with respect to the timeline. I think kind of Coast Guard wide, we are excited about getting back out and doing the road shows again.
Yeah.
we talked about generating command concerns. I remember the day when I was XO of a cutter one time, and I visited EPM to hand carry my command concerns and look people in the eye and talk about the sailors on our ship and what we needed on our ship. I want to get back to that.
Yeah.
So that's some of the stuff that Rula and I have been encouraging. We're always looking at afloat opportunities for women. And there's some big things coming down the pipeline with respect to that. 65 WLRs. CG1 just approved an exception to policy to be able to allow women to serve on board those platforms. DCO and DCMS just signed a decision memo talking about the 140 WTGBs and making modifications to allow them to support female afloat opportunities. We're assigning women to WITLs now, WYTLs, the harbor tugs, the 65s. We have one that's reporting this year. These are great opportunities for women afloat. So one of the things we looked at this year was, hey, whether you think it's a mixed gender unit or not, put in for it, because we want to capture that data. We want to capture that data. And if those things change, we know that you're available to fill those assignments. So those are great opportunities for us. You know, Master Chief, that we've chartered a one service-wide exam integrated product team. You think of one service-wide exam and you think, that's advancements. That's advancements. That will have an impact on the assignment season and the assignment year. So the initial round of comms have gone out, an internal comms bulletin, a flag voice has gone out. Recently, a My Coast Guard article went out. That, while it's focused on assignments, it's about optimizing the relationship between the advancement process and the assignment process. We went and we did we went and looked back to see how many members get notified after February 1st that, hey, congratulations, you're advancing. Because that's a great thing, right? But there's so many opportunities that you've missed in the assignment year to participate fully in that process. That's what the one service-wide exam is here to do, is to reduce those numbers of late notifications. I can't make them go to zero because there's still fallouts. Right. There's going to be overseas screening that people fail. There's going to be disciplinary stuff that takes place, all these other variables that impact, oh my goodness, there's a vacancy and we've got to find a body to fill it. But for the most part, the one service-wide exam, I fully support that. It's for our E4s looking to make E5s, E5s looking to make E6, because everybody else who competes via the service-wide exam is already on a one annual service-wide. So I think we're going to learn a lot from that. And I think we're going to be able to look at that and then go back and look at the timeline that we do for the assignment year and figure out, is that right? Can we back that up a little bit, or do we have it about right? So we're going to learn a lot from that, and I'm excited about it.
Me too. I tell you, I was that happened to me. I advanced off when I was making first class, I advanced off the November service-wide, and that's how I ended up getting kind of a shorter list from the assignment officer, because it was some fills that needed kind of off cycle. So I'm excited about the one service-wide exam too. There's a lot of things that go into the decision making that our assignment officers use. Assignment priority is one of them. There's your marks. There's a lot of different factors that go in. Commander, can you talk a little bit about the various factors and if any of them are weighted or not weighted, and how do we make the decision, on the assignment when you have people that look a lot alike?
We do. Thank you for the question, Master Chief. As we preach, we have the 14 assignment factors, but they get applied differently. And I will say the one that is weighted the most heavily is service need, because that's what we are doing. We're here. We're making assignments to support the service. But we do have some that are sort of, I like to call them pillars of our assignments. And that is your assignment priority. We do assignment priority. We just did our triennial review. We've gotten some feedback on that, but every 3 years we adjust assignment priority, and assignment priority rewards folks that take those hard to fill jobs. So if someone completes their full tour in an AP 1 or 2 unit, we want to make sure that their desires are reflected in their assignment. So assignment priority and performance, which is got a marks component, but there are other parts of performance as well, including command, recommendation, and then if if they're up for transfer. So I would say those are really the big ones that we use to start stratifying the workforce. But I mean, one of the things that we get a lot is I don't want to put it on my dream sheet, because if it's on there and I'm the only one that put it on there, even though it's at 25, I'm going to end up going there. And that is a policy. We do not assign the position, we assign the members.
Right.
So if you're the only one that put, I'm not.
St. Pete.
We'll use I'm the only one to put
St.
St. Pete on there. No one else wants to go there at 25. No, I mean, if you earn something that's 1 or 2 on your list and you got to go to the dependable as number 1,
Right.
that's my old my old 210. So I'll do a shout out there.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to assign you to St. Pete. It'll go on a currently available list. That is why it is so important that's not on your list.
That's great. That is awesome, because I could tell you as I go around, that is a fear that people say, well, no matter if it's on my e-resume, no matter where it is, that's where nobody else asked for it. That's where I'm going. And I try to tell people, no, that's not the case. We really do. If you earned a higher assignment, we don't just go, oh, that fool right there. But it's not. That's not what we do.
And that's why it's important for us to look people in the eye and say that.
That's true.
And I had the opportunity, and I know you know this, Master Chief, but to ride Polar Star down from Seattle to Vallejo, and I met with the enlisted workforce at District 11 and Base Alameda, and that was one of the things I was proud to look them in the eye to say, is that if you put 200 jobs on your dream sheet and number 199 I can't fill, and you are number 6, you're getting number 6.
Yeah.
You are getting number 6, and that's the way that we do business. And I just want to, I appreciate how Commander Deisher shapes that in terms of pillars. Everybody, service need, we don't throw that out there to be flippant in any way. It's just to show that, hey, there's program sponsors that identify requirements and they attach those requirements to certain billets, and we're looking for certain people to fill those jobs. And if we have a limited candidate pool, we're going to have a conversation about, you being in that candidate pool, and sometimes those are tough conversations. But that's why this period of self-reflection is important. That's why mentorship is important. That's why career counseling is important, because it takes all of those things to create a realistic e-resume that's going to allow you to compete and have you compete well for a billet that you desire.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So, of those, there's a couple things that affect a fair number of people, but I'd like to just kind of get your take on, as I go around, people say, hey, what's geographic stability look like? Does what is that? Is 2 tours geographic stability? How does that look, and how does that factor in? Does a no cost, because I'm a no cost order, does that maybe give me a little bit of a bump to a position? What's our goal as an organization for geographic stability?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Master Chief. So you're exactly right. In policy, it says two tours in the same geographic region. Excuse me. That being said, it is not an assignment factor. So what we communicate to members, and then I'll let Commander Deisher add on to this, is it's part of your desire. So communicate that in the comments block when you fill out your e-resume. Commander, anything to add to that?
No, I would say geographic stability, we try to do 2 tours. We do maximize fleet ups when we can to get members to the tour completion date time. So, we're not moving folks every year, but sometimes we can't help it depending on, and it depends if you're going from second to first or first to chief, right? So that always plays in it as well. So it's I would say 2 tours is standard, and then geographic diversity, you need to look at career diversity as well. So there's some ratings that are able to have a diverse career at a same area, but when you're looking at these small boat stations, it's very hard for us, a small boat station in D9, it's very hard for us to keep you geographically stable in that region when there's just, there's not a lot of Coast Guard around.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. I know with us building out the large bases in Charleston, Alameda, perhaps Seattle, Pensacola, LA, Boston, Newport, as we start to cluster our cutters and our units, perhaps that might make it having a diverse career a little easier in one location. and we're looking forward to getting those large home ports built out to give people an opportunity.
Looking to be geographically stable, look at the opportunities for your rating, and pick an area that's got a lot of diversity for your rating, right?
Yeah. I want to be geographically stable in Jacksonville. May not happen. So good stuff. And then co-location. We've done a really nice job. We conducted some retention studies that really showed that sometimes assignment season and assignment years and transfer seasons can make people make some tough decisions, and we wanted to kind of ease that. And EPM crafted some policies and really has tried to look out for our folks where they can in terms of co-location. Can you talk about what people should expect in terms of being co-located?
Oh, I would just start off with, I really encourage people to actually look in the assignments manual for what co-location is defined as, and that is co-location is actually a tour length alignment policy for members E1 to E6 and O1 to O4. And it's sort of it is at that level for a reason, because when you get E7 and above, it's very hard for us to keep folks together. But I tell you what, the assignment officers bend over backwards for that. I do have a lot of member-to-member married folks, and we do appreciate that is part of the support network. So if you are looking to be co-located, that needs to be the first comment on your e-resume. You need to talk with the AOs. I mean, we do officer enlisted, so you need to talk, your spouse needs to talk with their AO. I mean, we co-locate people with other services. So, put that, the co-location is my number one priority, and then talk to the AO, and they can tell you where to best, how to align your e-resume. We've had members on the phone. My AOs talk to each other daily, and they work through the colas. We have members on the phone with both spouses. We can do a joint, both AOs and both members together. But we work very hard to do that, and we do manage to co-locate folks above that as well. We do.
And I would, everybody listening, remember, if co-location is a priority to you, Kodiak might be co-locating you. It might not be where you want to be, but we'll try to get you together. And if so, you kind of have to understand that we got to co-locate you where we can co-locate you, not where you want to be co-located. So just keep that in mind, and remember what I said earlier. There's no bad units. Every place is what you make of it in the Coast Guard. So as long as you're with your spouse, a lot of times that makes things a whole lot better.
Another thing I need to put out: if your spouse is an AP1, that does not automatically make you an AP1.
Right.
So there needs to be there definitely needs to be some synergy. You need to, the AOs, we're not marriage counselors. So you need to work through with your spouse and sort of decide where you both can earn the jobs.
And if you both go to Kodiak, you probably are going to get a better assignment priority than two people that are not in Kodiak. So that's I'm not Kodiak's a great place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Master
it's a great
Chief, we like it. It is a beautiful place.
We're building houses and everything. That's great.
And it's important that assignment priority should be used very strategically.
Yes.
There are some, if you're looking for an OIC position, assignment priority isn't going to apply to that process. But if you're in the general duty slate, it does. So when we're talking about colos, when we're talking about geographic stability, we have plenty of cases. I have a very good friend who just retired from the Coast Guard who spent the majority of his career in South Florida. He did 2 tours overseas. He did all of these things to use assignment priority to his strategic advantage, and he did so very, very well. And that's what it takes, is understanding how you can use that to your advantage.
Absolutely. I had a good friend of mine, Ryan Fallenkamp, who he kind of homesteaded in Petaluma, but he took a lot of isolated duty and a float and all that just to be able to keep his family straight. So as we talked about the assignment factors and how we make assignment decisions, we said needs of the service is kind of at the front. And I'll tell you, I took a couple needs of the service assignments, and it turned out to be fantastic. It turned out to be much better than I thought. And I got to the unit, and those were units that I was actually able to grow. I had low expectations going there because I didn't really want to go there, and then it turned out to be fantastic. We have to fill every billet in the Coast Guard. and we have a talent management system where we try to make sure that we get the right people in the right billet with the right skill sets. Can you talk about what needs of the service kind of looks like, and how we can how folks can kind of try to understand that and wrap their minds around, well, I'm filling a service need. Everybody in the Coast Guard is a skill player. There's nobody on the bench. You talked about how other services assign people. They have garrison forces, they have seashore, we don't have that. Everybody in the Coast Guard is important. Everybody's in the game, and needs of the service really does kind of trump everything else. But it has to. You talk a little bit about how you kind of keep people's mind right in terms of needs of the service.
Master Chief, we started off the conversation talking about location, and I want to be assigned here, I want to be assigned there. I think it starts with, and I talked about reflection, I'll talk about it again, is understanding the value that you bring it to the Coast Guard. How much the Coast Guard has invested in you and in your skill set. And then understanding that really every single billet in our Coast Guard, at least for petty officers and above, there are program sponsors managing those billets.
Oh, yeah.
They're attaching training requirements to them. They're attaching certifications to them. And as EPM, as the Coast Guard's Personnel Service Center, we are doing our best to meet those requirements.
Right.
We cannot just assign members based off a location. So, in my mind, service need is where it comes into play whenever there is a significant gap within our service that perhaps requires us to weigh that more than a member's desires to be in a location.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come up too often if somebody constructs a realistic e-resume, meaning they understand the value that they bring to the service, they understand the requirements attached to the billets that they're applying for, or maybe not applying for, but they understand the Coast Guard is going to look at them, for those positions. Then you can craft a realistic e-resume, have good career counseling with your AO, and avoid for your entire career that feeling of, well, I got assigned based off of the needs of the service. I don't want you to feel that way,
Right.
But we do have a requirement to meet the requirements imposed by program sponsors.
Well, you kind of segued a little bit in terms of crafting a realistic e-resume. So that looks different for every rating, right? So what you have to look at your seashore ratio of your rating and even your rate. So in the FS rating, or CS rating, excuse me, just to read CS rating, it looks differently. At E5, it might look different than E6. It might look different than E7. I see people sometimes that hang their hat on one assignment factor and craft an e-resume based off of, well, I have this going for me. Can you give us some kind of hints on how we can help people craft a realistic e-resume?
You need to talk to the AOs. And
So that's a great idea.
I would say
to call your AO.
call your AO and say, I want to do this. What does a realistic e-resume look like? And the AOs will tell you realistically if you can do what you want to do. And if you can, they'll tell you how to do that. And I think one of the things I heard recently is you can play chess, checkers, or chicken with the AO. And I don't know if you want to put that in there.
No, that's great. I love
you can
that.
play chess, checkers, or chicken. And chess is the long, I want to be here in my career in 10 years. What do I need to do? I want to be in this location in 2 tours. What do I need to do? That's checkers. And if you play chicken, no one wins at
Right.
chicken.
Right. Hey, that's neat. I've never heard that before.
Yes,
But I like it a lot.
Play chess.
Yeah,
and it starts with you and what your desires are and what your long-term goals are. So in my mind, I think of a realistic e-resume, and this is straight from our roadshow and the communications that I've had with the fleet is just what Commander Deisher said, which is, it starts by calling your AO, because not only do they do the career counseling, for your rating, they also have a pretty good idea what's coming open on that slate and what they're going to have to fill. So I tell our AOs that I want you to have frank conversations with members, which is, I think you'll compete well there, or, you probably better plan a vacation because that's the only way you're going to get to the location. And we don't say that again to turn members away. We want to give as much information to people as we can. We want to be fully transparent and give them an opportunity to shape that e-resume that will be successful in what they're trying to accomplish. So I think a realistic e-resume is one that the comments clearly articulate the members' desires both professionally and personally, and then two, the billets that they're applying for match. So if you tell me that your number one professional goal is to get a deck watch officer qualification and you only put one type of platform in 2 states, that's not a realistic e-resume, because I can't guarantee you that even if you're the best sailor in the world, that I can get you on one platform in one type of platform in each of those 2 types of states. But if you put every single platform where somebody for your rating and grade is eligible to get a DWO qualification, that is a realistic e-resume.
So what I heard you say, call your assignment officer and talk to them about what they think would be an e-resume, a realistic e-resume. The other thing I want to address real quick too is, you might say, I called my assignment officer and they told me one thing, and then the next tour I called my assignment and they told me something completely different. I would tell you that they probably didn't. Things may have changed. The assignment process and the way we assign people and basically the overall theme of assignments has not really changed throughout the years. But sometimes there are situations that situations that change, missions that change, home ports change. Those types of things change, which necessitates an AO giving you maybe some different career advice than you got last time that you talked to your assignment officer. And they're all, each one has their own personality. I'll tell you, for those listening, the assignment officers are in a space at headquarters here where they can literally all see each other. They can stand, if they stand up, they can all kind of talk. They could yell from one end to the other, and everybody could hear each other. So they can easily talk to each other, and they do. And they share ideas, and they work together. There's an assignment officer university where they all kind of find out what the priorities are that year and kind of work towards it. So I just want you to know there's a lot that goes into it. And just because you got career advice from one assignment officer and different career advice from another assignment doesn't mean that the process is broken or anything like that. It just means that things probably changed.
Can I add to that, Master
Yes,
Chief,
please,
real quick?
please.
One of the things I like to say is I'm here from the fleet, I'm here for the fleet, and I'm going back to the fleet.
That's right.
And that's exactly what we're instilling in our assignment officers. It's part of the reason why you see more E8s on the watch floor. And yes, we call it a watch floor because a lot of times that's what it looks like when they're all sitting there on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
These are passionate men and women who are fallible just like all of us, and they want to do their very best.
Yeah.
People are calling them. If you're listening to this and you're not, you're an anomaly. Pick up the phone and call them.
Right.
They should be overly accommodating with you. If not, I want to hear about it. And, we want to facilitate that communication. Because, again, if members are doing everything right on their end, they're getting the proper mentorship, they're doing the self-reflection, and we're doing things right on our end, which is effective career counseling based off the slate for that upcoming assignment year, figuring out who goes where should be the easiest part.
Yeah, I can tell you from personal experience, they all do really care. I was scared to death to call my assignment officer because I thought I'm going to say the wrong thing, but I can tell you shouldn't be. Don't be scared to contact. I'm not saying pick up the phone and call every time, but send them an email, find out who they are. You can check on the portal. It's not hard to find who your assignment officer is. And then send them a note and saying, hey, I'd like to call you or I'd like to have a conversation with you. I promise you'll find them to be very approachable and very accommodating.
And if you don't call, we still know who you are because
You're still getting assigned.
yeah, you're still getting assigned. And guess what? Your command has probably spoken to us about you and your command concerns. If there's been a roadshow, perhaps we talked to your leading chief or the chief of the boat about you. So there's all these things. We don't keep files on people outside your EIPDR, but we know that you're up for assignment We know at least a little bit about you. Tell us what your professional desires are. That's what we're missing, and that's what we want from that phone call.
Right. Yeah. People used to joke and say, find out who your assignment officer is and find out their home address and mail them flowers to their house or something. But you talked a little bit about the comments block. I never really knew what to put in the comments block. I didn't know how detailed should I get? Should I get that, my spouse is going to college and that there's this particular, I just didn't know. How detailed do you think folks should get in terms of their comments on their e-resume? How much does that really count?
Yeah. So it does count. I mean, it is a tool for you to communicate whatever you want with your assignment officers. I personally would start with my professional desires. And again, Commander Deisher talks about chess, checkers, and chicken. I would say play chess in that block. So I want to know where you want to be 20 years from now.
Yeah.
I want to know that you understand the milestones and the requirements for your specific rating to be able to make you eligible to compete for advancement, eligible to advance, and to be competitive when it's your time to sit in front of the Master Chief Advancement Panel, or your time to get looked at for an appointment to Chief Warrant Officer. So highlight those for us, and then when we do the career counseling, we'll be able to shape that. Absolutely. Tell us what's going on with your family, if you want to. Just keep in mind that the 14 assignment factors, still absolutely apply.
Sure.
That helps us as well whenever we end up doing career counseling, because we can kind of talk through some of those things if they rise to the level of, hey, are you registered for the special needs program? Because what you're communicating could be, rise to that level, and it's a requirement to be registered in the special needs program if you meet those certain criteria. So that's what I would personally put in there, and it all comes together with your billet choices to determine whether or not that's a realistic e-resume.
It should really tell a story, but they should complement each other, and it should tell a story, and just the AOs read it, but if it's a lot, you're asking the AOs to read a lot. So
Right.
I would say keep it pretty succinct.
Right, right, yeah, the most important parts, but I agree with you. I think they do kind of go together, and if they're looking at a couple people that are fairly close together, fairly even, and you can make a compelling reason why you might need to go one place or another, that could help.
Yes.
There's one part of assignments that doesn't get talked a lot about, but is critically important, and that's special assignments. We're kind of in the special assignment season. We some people aren't sure, well, if I put in for a special assignment, can I also put in for a regular assignment? And then if I don't get special assignment, can you coach people a little bit on how they should go about applying for special assignments?
I mean, most of our special assignments involve a panel, right? And so a lot of times, if you think you might want to do a special assignment, go for it, because we do those first. It's Mr. Baldueza.
Yes.
And he completes his slate, whatever slate it is, before my general detail. So we have the recruiting panel coming up. So you'll sit before the panel. The panel will provide a list of rating, and then at that point, Mr. Baldueza will talk with each AO, and you either get released from rating or not. And so if you didn't ever apply for recruiting, you're not going to have that opportunity. So I would always say apply for your special assignment first, and then the general detail comes later. I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Yes, that was.
And you will have that choice if you get selected for a special assignment and something has changed in your personal life and you feel like you can't accept it. Okay, we're going to move you back down to the general duty slate if that's what you want. But the thing that I want members to keep in mind is you apply for a special duty assignment, you're being compared against those outside of your rating, maybe for the first time in your career. So something to keep in mind. And the important aspect of that is making sure you have a good record.
That's right.
Making sure you have a good record. So you and I have spoke about this a lot, Master Chief,
yeah.
with the Master Chief Advancement Panel. And officers, usually from the time of their commissioning, are, force-fed the need to maintain a proper military record. We haven't done that within our enlisted workforce, and it's time. And enlisted members need to understand that it's their responsibility. So CO writes us up for something good. You know, the SPO's the one that's supposed to put it in our record, but are you going back and looking and requesting a copy of your record to make sure that it is up to date, that somebody didn't accidentally delete something whenever they went to put that in there? So, you know, is there a requirement for how long or how often or how frequently you should update or look at your record? No, but I would say before you go in front of a special assignment panel, absolutely. Before you go, you know, if you're getting looked at for the Master Chief Advancement Panel, absolutely. So, and it starts really with day one from your enlisted career.
I tell you, it's critically important, and I would say for all those listening, if you want a special assignment, pull your EIPDR. Make sure you know what's in there. It's very important. We're working on a software solution that should make that easier, but in the meantime, do it. Make sure you know what's in your record. And if you want more information about special assignments, it's Chief Warrant Officer Jamie Baldehueza. There's a Captain Baldehueza too. That's his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Not this.
I email him sometimes.
Yeah.
Also. They're great opportunities, but you have to, going back to Captain's comment, you have to be strategic about them, because there's good, depending on what your rating is, or even specifically your rate. When is a good time to go out and do something outside of your rating? I think there's always good reasons to do that, and I think it gives you a better appreciation for what we do within the rating.
Yeah.
I think it's good to go outside your rating, take a look, and then come back in, and
I encourage everybody to try to do a special assignment if they can. I was a Chiefs Academy instructor, and I almost didn't get released from rating. My detailer calls me and says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm shorthanded. I can't release you from rating." And I don't know what happened, but a couple weeks later called back and said, "Actually, I can release you, and you're going to go to be a Chiefs Academy instructor," which was terrific. So, you know, it's not a given, but if you don't apply, you'll never get it. One more thing, it's kind of rare, doesn't happen very often, but it's a little mysterious, and that's our humanitarian transfers. You know, some people, you know, have a significant life event where, you know, they really they have to make a decision whether or not they're going to get out or temporarily ask for a humanitarian assignment to go take care of something. Can you just talk a little bit about, you know, how that process works, if you can?
I'll start with that. I think a humanitarian assignment, it's a great tool for something that happens to a Coast Guard member or a member of their, actually it's normally a member of their immediate family, that is way outside of what other family Coast Guard members have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it per the policy, we'll take a look at it, but we look at it 6 months TDY. When we get the request in, there are a couple of points we take. We do take a look at is the member's presence required to relieve that hardship, and is there a path forward? So a lot of times, and we'll start with the 6 month TDY hums, and we'll check in with a member and see what is going on, because I sometimes there's a lot of sad things that happen to Coast Guard members and their families, and we wanna support them.
Yeah.
Support them through it. So normally when the HUMS requests come in, it's between the HUMS and a hardship discharge. So we like the HUMS. A lot of times folks just need a couple of months to get a plan in action so they can become worldwide assignable again. So the HUMS is there to sort of just put a pause there and allow the member to get the support for his or her family that is needed to so the member presence isn't required to be there. And we have members that are going through extraordinary things right now to support their family.
Yeah, thank you for the support for that. I tell you, you really help people not have to make that tough decision to get out. I learned something new. I thought HUMS was an automatic two year, and I didn't realize that it could be shorter than that. I know you have to be able to. It can't be a long term. It's you know, kind of a max of 2 years, I think, and then maybe, you know, after that you have to be able to be assignable again.
Right.
Otherwise, you probably do need to just request to be discharged if that's not the case. And so this has been fantastic. I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate your insights. I want to talk about one last thing as we close, because I think this is the kind of, for me, this was the took me a long time to get this through my head in terms of assignments. I always looked at location. You know, my wife and I would sit down, even with our kids, and we would say, okay, where do we want to go? And I don't know that, thinking back, when we didn't go where we wanted to go, it turned out fine. And so maybe I should have thought about this a little sooner, but, it's not really about location. And if you want to go far in the Coast Guard, if you want to reach your potential, you have to kind of trust the process a little bit. You kind of have to take the assignments as they come and then make every assignment best. Can you talk a little bit about how people hang their hat on geography, but in the officer corps, that won't get you where you want to go. And I think that kind of comes over into the enlisted side a little bit with assignments too.
Yeah, it does, and that's a great point, Master Chief. You know, I've spoken about program sponsor requirements. I use that term a lot because, as you mentioned, I came from 751.
Yeah.
You know, I have yet to see a requirement for advancement that says you need at least one assignment in D7. You know, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, we're talking about qualifications, certifications, time in service, time and grade. Those are the requirements to advance. I recognize that location is absolutely important. It's important to me. It's important to my wife. My last command was a 270, and I remember telling my wife, I want to go to a 270 followed by a 210. And then I let her prioritize the location. And we listed every single available 270 followed by every single available 210. I would say that the expectation for our enlisted workforce is not dissimilar. What are your professional desires? And list every single opportunity there is on that shopping list to be able to obtain that, and then stratify it in terms of location.
That's great advice.
So I know location is important. Choosing schools, terribly important.
Right.
I understand that. We understand that. But your first priority as a member of the Coast Guard should be the requirements associated with your rating and your professional desires, followed by your location desires. And if you do that, you are going to be a more productive enlisted Coast Guardsman and Coast Guardswoman, and your duration in our Coast Guard is going to be for a longer period of time, I assure you that.
Right, and I think, sometimes we get hung up on location, and we got to kind of trust that, the assignment officers really do have your best interest in mind, and they really do try to get you into positions that are going to help you, grow as a coastie. So, it took me many years, but I think I finally figured out that it really wasn't about location, even though I thought it was just about every time I transferred. And, I want to thank both of you. You got a very difficult job that, trying to make as many people happy as you can, but knowing that, I got to tell you, when I got orders, probably a third of the time, I wasn't happy with where I was going until I got there and kind of lived in it for about 6 months. I was like, this is pretty good. I actually like this. So I will go back and finish like I started and say, I never had a bad assignment in my career. I had assignments I didn't initially think I wanted to go to. And I want to applaud all the folks in EPM and EPM2, the assignment officers. You do a terrific job of meeting the needs of the Coast Guard, trying to meet the needs of our people, and working with them to give them the best quality of life. And you both are tremendous leaders. Commander Deisher, I want to wish you best of luck in your next assignment in command. You're going to be amazing. You're terrific. And Captain Carter, thank you for all your hard work with EPM. You own the total EPM enterprise, and you're doing a magnificent job, both of you.
Thanks, Master Chief.
Thank you for
very
your
much.
time, Master Chief.